What is going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of PWTB. It's a pleasure to be here as always. I'm with Jordan tonight, doing a couple topics by myself, and Jordan's joining me for a couple. So appreciate that. Jordan, how you doing, man?
Good. How are you? Just watched Duke advance to the Elite Eight. And I know you were pretty happy about that. I believe in your bracket challenge. I think you had Duke making the Final Four, correct?
Yeah, I had Duke in the Final Four. My bracket took a big hit last night, which we'll get into. Houston losing was devastating. I had them in the Final Four. And then Arkansas, I had as a trendy upset pick over Arizona. That did not happen. But my champion Duke is still alive, and Michigan in the Final Four is still alive. And a couple other like potential wins are still out there. But big hit to my bracket last night. But I did beat Jake in our 1v1. And I thought that should be mentioned. And I'm still, if Duke stays alive, I'm still a sliver of a chance in my big pool with like 100 people. So but Duke's got to keep winning. So and they've been skating by like geez, like they St. John's was leading by 10 in this game. Duke's been trailing in like all their other games, so they're just
I,
barely skating by. Yeah.
well, I think at this point, I think it's just very clearly really, really good teams. So I mean, you can't really fault Duke for that, to be honest with you. But I mean, yeah, Duke entered the tournament as the number one overall seed. In my opinion, they shouldn't really be down by 10 points, but it is what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. I and that's what I'm saying too. Like it's one thing to be competitive, but it's one thing to be losing by double digits. So that's not going to keep happening. But let's go over some of Thursday's games and then we'll go over there's two games that have finished. Two games have finished. No, only one game's finished today, right?
Michigan and Alabama is still happening right now.
Yeah, it's still happening as we speak. So we'll go over Friday a little bit later, but let's go over Thursday, and I guess I'll just start with some of my thoughts. The Purdue and Texas game was a really good game. I'm glad I got to watch a decent amount of that one. Um, Texas, people were saying like, "Oh, there's a Cinderella team. It's an 11 seed." And it's like, "Oh gosh, it's Texas." Like that's not fun at all. Big annoying fan base. But you got to give props to them. I mean, they definitely did go on a run, winning three games in 1 week and then almost beating Purdue. I don't feel like either of these teams are really championship caliber, but two very fun, exciting teams. I still stand by that Purdue's a little bit too little, with shooting the ball, but uh, or I mean they have good shooters, but they're a little bit too little at the post. But nice win for them. Iowa and Nebraska. I mean Iowa's the new Cinderella now, I would have to say. I think just the performance they put on to beat Florida. Then you beat Nebraska. I don't know how good Nebraska was, but again, they were a four seed. They were respectable. So big win for them. The Illinois and Houston game, and I'm curious to hear Jordan's thoughts on this. This was the most shocking one last night by far. Illinois is a good team, but Houston was looking like world beaters. They just made Texas A&M in the round of 32 look like a Division 3 school or something. Not that bad, but like a smaller school. Like they beat them up like that was not even a game. And then Illinois comes in and wins. That was surprising. And then you know, the Arizona was pretty interesting too. Arizona beating Arkansas by 21 points. Again, can Arizona compete with like a Duke? Can they compete with a Michigan? I still have questions with that, but Arizona has been one of those teams that I think like they haven't been to the Elite Eight in like a certain amount of years or something like that. I forget exactly. But and they just looked absolutely dominant versus Arkansas, who is a very respectable team. So Arizona, I have questions if they're going to go all the way either, but definitely living up to the one seed name, winning by 21. But overall, I would say most impressive goes to Illinois. They look absolutely legit. But Jordan, what you think?
Yeah, so just let me start with the Illinois Houston game. That was really the most shocking. I remember, I think I went to the park last night and I came home and looked at the Houston Illinois score, and I'm just thinking, what in the world is going on here? Because if you guys remember in the March Madness preview when the brackets first came out and we were discussing it, I had Houston winning the whole thing. Unfortunately, that's not going to happen now. I know Evan, go ahead and laugh at me if you want.
No, I mean I had them in the final. I mean I will take my victory lap that my champion is still around, but I had them in the final four and to go again that beatdown they had on A&M to scoring 55 points. That's wild. Yeah.
So and then the Purdue Texas game. It that game just kind of, like it was a great game, but it just made me kind of feel like, oh hey, like Evan said, we have an 11 seed in the Sweet 16, but it's Texas, who's an SEC team, power conference team. They're expected to be there. It's not like High Point with the Sweet 16. They had a great season in their own right, but and then Arizona beating Arkansas, I honestly was not really shocked by it. Arkansas can score, but I don't think their defense is all that. Arizona really good at scoring. I believe they had 102 points. Evan, can you double check on that real quick?
109. They beat 109 to 88 was the final
Okay,
score of that one.
all
Yep.
right, sounds about right. And then the other game was Iowa Nebraska. I just at the end of the game, I don't know what Nebraska was thinking, but I don't know if Evan noticed this or not, but they had like four players on the court.
That is crazy. Yeah, and the announcers were well, actually, because I was watching what was the other game going on at the same time as that one? The let me check this. Oh, Purdue. I was mainly watching the Purdue game, so but then I sort of flipped to the Nebraska game. Like at the end, I was flipping between, and then I saw that they were saying something like the announcers were just ripping Nebraska. Like I at this stage, I can't believe you only had four players on the court. So no, that's crazy. Yeah, that
And
happened.
that was just absolutely unbelievable. But yeah, so like Evan said, Iowa's the new Cinderella right now since Texas lost. They had beaten Florida, they had beaten Nebraska, who I had mentioned never won an NCAA tournament game. They won two, got really close to the Elite Eight, so they were had a really good season in their own right. And Iowa's picked up two insane victories in a row. Um, so it'll be fun to see this. Can you this guy pitched the idea to me the other day. Can you imagine if it's Michigan, Michigan State, Illinois, and Purdue in the Final Four?
Oh, I would love that. I don't know as an
I
SEC
would
fan
not.
if you would love that. Yeah, I don't think you would, but I would love that. Yeah.
No, I would not. Um, Unfortunately, you know, like I mentioned, my national champion is out from the March Madness preview. Arkansas is also out, losing to Arizona. Alabama, I believe, is losing to Michigan as we speak. I also had them in the Final Four. And then I also had UConn, who faces Michigan State later on tonight.
Yeah, Alabama currently there's 9 minutes left and they're down by 15 now. So we maybe next week we'll be talking about the great Alabama comeback. I'm sure Jordan wouldn't want to do that, but for now it's looking like they're in trouble. Yeah.
No, I do not want to talk about another Alabama comeback. I do not care what sport it is. I have seen too many of them
Yep.
to begin
Okay.
with.
So let's talk. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about Friday. This is hopefully going to be my bracket rebound day. I needed Duke, like I said, they're my champion. They won. Michigan's looking pretty good. I have them in my Final Four, and then I did have Michigan State winning in my bracket, and I had Michigan State being UConn in my bracket, and I had Iowa State beating not Tennessee, but I had Iowa State winning this round in my bracket. So could potentially have a rebound night. Keeping my fingers crossed on that one, but. Let's talk a little bit about Duke and St. John's, though, since that game actually did finish. I would, and I know we were dumping on Duke at the beginning of this, that they're just like, barely skating by. But I will give them credit. This was a very nice win today for them. St. John's is no scrub. They beat Kansas. They play in the Big East. They've been good all year long. St. John's was taking them to task, and this is a good win. Like, I think St. John's. Beating St. John's is a step above beating TCU and what is this, Siena or whatever? Like, I almost forgot who they were in the first round, but yeah, I think this was a good win for Duke, maybe a confidence builder, and hopefully they can, for my sake at least, hopefully they can keep it going. But that was a fun game to watch for sure. Jordan, what were your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I thought this was a great game. I Duke is my second team, so I got a little worried when they were down by 10 points. But I was actually watching the end of the UGA baseball game, and so I was keeping my eye on that, and I was like, oh shoot, like oh crap, Duke's down by 10 points because I think Evan said something about like Duke being in trouble. So
Yep.
I went to go look, and I think they were down by like 9 or 10 points. I was like, oh crap. And then, I mean, well, luckily they pulled it out in the end. Um, Got a little dicey there. The Duke missed some free throws down the stretch, but thankfully put it away.
Yeah, they did. There's been a lot of missed free throws, and I get like free throws are supposed to be a clutch thing, but I feel like more than usual this tournament, there's been some not really good free throw shooting, but we'll see if that continues.
Well, just overall in the tournament, I feel like it's not really been like exactly boring, but we haven't had the huge shocking other than High Point beating Wisconsin, which I mean Evan probably saw coming.
Yeah, I did see that one coming, unfortunately. Yeah, but that's Jordan makes a great point. Like that's the biggest upset. Like they're the first round, don't get me wrong, the first round was still disappointing. I want to see like a 13 seed still alive right now, but we don't have that, however, with that said, the second round in sense has been fire. It's been amazing. So I do appreciate it's not the best March Madness ever, but it has been fire since the second round. So credit where it's due.
Yeah, and then speaking about upsets, I don't think you'll see an upset from this point forward. Nothing's considered an upset. These are all really, really good teams at this point. So I mean, even if Tennessee beats Iowa State, that's not. I mean, that technically that's an
That's not
upset with
it.
seeding,
I was
but
about yeah, I was about to correct you on that, Jordan, but you're no, you're I'm looking at the spread right now and it's only Iowa State by 3.5. That's not an upset. That's yeah.
yeah, I'm like technically it's an upset because of the seeding numbers, but Tennessee is really, really good.
Yeah.
So I mean, you got to be really, really good to be at this point. So I don't think it would be an upset.